Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome once again to SciFest 2024. And this is our final session of National Science Week. It's been an amazing week with over 25,000 participants registered across the 15 events. And thank you to so many of you that have joined multiple sessions throughout the program. A big thank you to Inspiring Australia New South Wales, who with their support, we've been able to deliver all of these programs for free. And oh yes, thank you very much, Karen. We're back. We've loved them from Central Queensland. Really appreciate that. And we've had Odin from Moore Park in Bundaberg has been to many as well. Laura from East Gippsland is joining us again as well. It's a really lovely opportunity to reflect on what the theme of this year's Science Week has been: species survival, more than just sustainability. And I'm joined here today by Mary Bell from Nature Knows to have a sensory sanctuary. And this will give us a little bit of time to reflect on everything we have looked at this week and slow down for a Friday, get ready for the weekend, and really spend some time connecting and appreciating the wonderful world around us. Thank you, Mary. I will pass over to you. Oh, I can't hear you just at the moment. There we go.
Yeah, here we go. Thanks so much, Karen. It's such a pleasure to be here for this final event with a topic that's close to my heart, and to share some time connecting with nature with you all. I begin by acknowledging country, and we have learnt so much from Aboriginal people, their continued courage and respect for the land that we live on, we play on, we work on, we learn from, and all the waterways, the soil, the air, the plants, the animals, and everything in between. So I acknowledge country. I'm here on Dara country today, and it's my pleasure to indeed learn from the ancestors, learn from those Aboriginal people around us, and connect to country. So Karen has introduced the topic, and it's all about species survival beyond sustainability. And today I've got a few ways that you can connect to nature mindfully. I've got a lot of materials here with me. I've got all sorts of things. Now, you might have some material with you, or you might use this bit of time now to go and collect pieces. So I've got rocks, I've got bits of wood, I have feathers, I have soil, I have leaves, there might even be a pot plant. And if you don't have anything, it doesn't matter. I will visually stimulate your senses through this whole experience. And the experience is an invitation. I practice as a forest therapy guide, and I run walks, and every walk is different, and it's a different experience for everybody. So this is merely an invitation to you to do what feels right, how you interpret what I'm saying, and how you would like to participate. It's a really great opportunity to slow down and discover the world around you. So yeah, just take a few minutes doing that, and I'll just set up a few things here before we begin. So it's here that we can think about our connection to nature by closing our eyes, perhaps, and imagining that you are surrounded by nature. So in your mind, you may be feeling the warmth of the sun. You might hear the rustling of the leaves, the wind in the air, perhaps even the scent of the earth. Nature indeed is around us all the time because of the air we breathe, even if it's not anything else. there's the air that we breathe, and we are indeed nature. So being among nature is natural to us. It's something that's usually quite enjoyable, and this is a time for you to really get that opportunity to tune in. Another great way of connecting is by using our breath. So I'm going to ask people to just take a very deep breath and feel the air filling your lungs. And as you release that breath, you may even just let out a sigh. And imagine that you are releasing any tension that you feel. While you're taking these breaths, you may once again focus on the nature around you and the sounds that you hear. It might even be the breeze or some bird song. Let these sounds soothe your mind and guide you into the sacred space of nature, whether it's the forest, the sea, or the lakeside, wherever you might like to be. Let's just slow our breath down. It's like the connection between our mind and what we think, and just really letting go. So just slowing that breath down, really taking some deep breaths. So you are invited to tiptoe with your mind and your heart as we begin. Quieten the chatter inside your head and allow yourself to be fully present with the earth, the water, and the life surrounding you. So if you haven't already, just find yourself a comfortable space to be. And imagine that you have your roots extending like a tree from your feet, connecting you to the earth, grounding you to what we walk upon every day. Feel the solidness of the earth and the nurturing space it provides you. Perhaps it feels cool, perhaps it feels warm. You may even like to wiggle your toes a little bit, play them like piano keys, give them a stretch. You might even like to stretch your body a little bit, roll your shoulders. Just toss your arms a little bit around just to let loose and just really relax into the space. Make the most of it. And as you breathe, feel your connection deepening and drawing strength from the earth. I trust that you are starting to feel a little bit less worried about things and focusing on what you can see. So we're going to focus a little bit on the elements now. So the first element, you may have some water near you. You may have some water nearby that you can imagine you're at. And even if you've got a glass of water, we're going to just focus in on the element of water. So I've got some water here, and it kind of looks pretty. It has reflections. I've even got a shell inside here. Just watching the water dripping, perhaps listening to the sounds of it, appreciating the reflections, the ripples, and everything else that makes it like a mirror. It's just a special thing, isn't it? And maybe you can feel with your fingers, if you're able to dip them in some water, how cool it feels. What does it feel like on your fingers? Consider the journey that water makes. It sustains the life that we live. It may even be traveling from rain down the mountains and into the river, and it sustains life for us. It's sort of a symbol of continuity, something that brings us all together. It flows past us. It's part of our bodies. Water keeps us alive. It's an essential. In fact, it's the most used resource in the world. So it's certainly something for species survival, something we value. So that's the element of water. The next element we're going to look at is the element of earth. So that could even be soil or rocks. I've got some different samples to share with you now. So it's lovely to be able to appreciate how long it takes for soil and rocks to be made. And they provide vital minerals for us to sustain life. And they are also something that we walk upon, we use in everyday life. It's certainly something that I really value, especially understanding how long it takes. So I have some earth here, and you may like to feel the earth, smell the soil. If it's not here there in front of you, perhaps you're imagining that smell of fresh earth. Perhaps after rain, the petrichor, that amazing sense of lushness that soil being wet provides, and provides sustenance for plants to grow in and provide habitat. Perhaps there are rocks that you know or that you sit upon sometimes. You might like to hold a rock in your hand, feel its texture, look at the colour it has, wondering how long it's been here, what processes were made to actually make this happen and evolve into a rock. I've got some other different rocks I'd love to share. Some of them have different colours and textures. The light can reflect off them quite nicely. And you can feel the weight of them in your hand. And to hold a rock is something solid. It's special. It's taken thousands and thousands of years to form. Perhaps the water has been involved in washing away parts of the rock and making it lovely and round like this one, like a pebble. Perhaps there are rocks that have little dints in them like this one, suggesting that it's probably cooled and maybe had a journey through heat to be transformed. There's so many different rocks. I just really appreciate all of them. And I have some other different soil to share with you now. Maybe we're at the beach. And I'm just going to roll these nuts around and create patterns in the sand. I can even see a little bit of life I've brought in from the garden. It's wonderful to feel the texture of it. Perhaps there's times when you've been to a beach or a river and you can imagine the sand between your toes. Maybe when you're having a bit of a lovely swim, just looking at the patterns in the sand, and maybe that's something that you can take back from this experience today. Make some patterns in the sand with shells or nuts like this. It's really quite fun. You can feel the texture on your fingers, and you can feel your texture on here as well. I've even got some other soil that I know children really like. I have to say I like it too. But here's a different type of soil. I wonder if you know what this one is. It's got a bit of a squishy texture, and it helps to shape things. You can use it to make pots and squeeze it. Lots of fun. You might even be able to listen to the sound it makes as you put. It's always good to involve the senses. I'm listening to the squishy sound of the clay as I play with it in my fingers. All right. So we've done the element of water and we've done the element of soil and rocks. Sometimes it's good to break it down, and it's all part of the earth. We could look at air now. Perhaps there are bits of feathers or the wind around you. Let's see if I can share some of the things that I've brought along to show you. So here are some feathers, emu feathers, and they help the birds move, sometimes fly through the air. They have a soft and tickly feeling. You might even like to put feathers on your face. Let it soothe you and get a little bit tickled. Try that. I'm going to be adventurous, and you might like to. Oh, Karen's going to help me with this one because I've got some wood. You can see if you can get the sound of wood. So I'm going to tap. Listen to the sound that the wood makes. You can scrape the wood. Amazing. Wood's so important as part of our life. Let's see if I can do another little bit of magic here. It might take me a minute to get sorted. But there's always the way you can see air sometimes is by looking at the flames. So I'm just lighting a bit of wood here. Don't try this at home. But I get to do this because I'm on this special webinar today. I'm just trying to get it to light and get a bit of smoke. You can see the flame. Fire helps in Australia particularly to transform environments, and it's a vital part of cleaning up the forest, providing nutrients, and renewing the cycle of life. So air and fire are really amazing things as elements in our environment, our species survival. Okay, so that was a lot of fun sharing all those ones with you. So what I'm suggesting for our next activity, and perhaps you just want to have a little bit of a shake and a little bit of a breath so I can slow down. But what we're going to try and do now is create a little bit of a circle of life, a mandala, perhaps using some different elements. So you might have some bark. I've got some bark that I'm going to put out just now. So let me do that. Have a little bark base. I've got some beautiful paper bark. So a mandala is like a special artistic representation, and we can use it by using some of the materials that we've collected. So this mandala is full of bark at the moment as a base. And I'm going to see what I can do to make a circular pattern with it. So I've got a few rocks here. And what I'm going to do, first of all, actually, is I'm going to place something in the middle. I've got a beautiful seed. I think seeds are great for the cycle of life. And then I've got some similar looking rocks. And I'm almost making a bit of a flower around my seed with a few of the rocks. I've got the clay down here. And I'm going to use the clay to perhaps place my feathers in. And let's hope that stays up. And another lovely thing to use is leaves, because leaves are often similar in shape, but quite different each one. So I think the feathers are a little bit in the way just now. So I'm going to use different leaves to make a kind of cycle around this seed to make a beautiful pattern. And doing this by touching the leaves and appreciating their beauty and creating art, these shapes are really good for us because we're often looking at very rectangular things in cities. We're looking at phone screens and other things like that. By interacting and touching with the chemicals that we have with natural materials is actually good for our health. So I've got some lovely big green leaves that I picked earlier, and they look lovely, providing a little bit of a texture and a little bit of difference around my design. And I've got some beautiful red leaves from the bleeding heart plant. So let me see if I can kind of add to that. Just feels really nice, this mindful process of thinking as we create something beautiful from nature. Nature has its own beauty. And we are nature's creatures, so we are beautiful too. But we get to do this, so how fun. So I'm just creating a whole layer of beautiful bleeding heart leaves to just really create some vivid colour here, which is amazing. I'm just thinking what else I can add. Oh, I've got some flowers. Flowers are really nice to add. So I've got a grevillea flower here, and I'm just going to add little pieces of that. I guess they're a little bit tiny, but small is always something to appreciate. And you can use whatever you have to create a beautiful shape like this. I'm not sure where this is going to go. That's going to go off to the side. I've got gum leaves. Gum leaves are really good for us because they have special chemicals inside them. If you smell a eucalypt, it's got chemicals that actually kind of Or we buy them in as oils, don't we? Eucalyptus oil, and we know that's really good for cleaning. It's really good for keeping you healthy when you're sick. And you can just go in the forest and smell the leaves as you walk, because the trees will release the scent. The oils are inside the leaf itself, and they create a beautiful scent that really uplifts me when I go into the forest. And just imagine those scents as we continue this. Oh, I think we've got a lot of things here to consider. So I'm just going to stop and appreciate it. I'm going to maybe tidy it up a little bit. But this is something that you can do just from found objects on a walk. You can try this and give your thank you to the forest. Don't pick things. I've picked things from my own garden, but you can pick things from your garden perhaps. But if you're out in the forest, you would just find things on the ground and perhaps create an artwork like this. You should smell it in here. Does anyone have beautiful smells where they are? Yeah, so we might like to consider this mandala artwork in a different sense. So I'm thinking that we could create something like a food web, consider it like a food web. So if I add some of my little creatures I've got here. So when we think of a food web, there's all sorts of things in a food web, aren't there? So in the middle, I wasn't able to get a lot of this today. I thought with all the rain I'd be able to find a lot more, but I've got a decomposer. So I'm going to add a bit of fungi to the middle. Lovely bit of bright orange fungi. So a decomposer. And then we can add little insects and things. So I've got some little beetles that I found last summer, and they move amongst the soil layers and they eat the leaves and the soil. So they have a role in the system as well. If we like to think about the feathers, perhaps they're further up the food web. They live amongst the forest and they delve into the, if we think about birds like kookaburras going into the forest and delving into the forest floor and getting worms, just think about it as a whole living food web. I'm wondering if I've got any other things. Oh, I've got a bone here. Perhaps we might like to represent something like a lizard or something like that, that's higher up the food web. And then perhaps there's a big, powerful owl at the top of our food web that likes to eat up the possums and things like that. Nature is indeed all interconnected. It's an amazing thing. So it's like a delicate balance, isn't it? If we take parts of it away, then it sort of takes a while to get back into balance. If we remove a lot of the things, then maybe these animals here don't have as much to eat, and it's a little bit difficult for them to get into balance. So species survival involves all of it. And if we take things away, things can get out of balance. So there's energy flowing through here from the decomposers going up to the beetles, the lizards, the birds, and everything that we can't see here, the worms and the fungi decomposing as well. It's like a whole cycle. Well, that was a bit of fun. So let's just take another breath. I think it's good to just think about that process and how fun that was. And I think the aspect of listening is really important. So if we close our eyes and just listening to the sounds around us. Can you hear water nearby? Can you hear the rustling of leaves? The beautiful sound of birds. Perhaps think about the sounds behind you, the sounds around you. How could you describe them? Do they have a certain rhythm? Perhaps you can hear the sound of your own heartbeat as a living thing. Something to really just get you back is listening to sound. You could try one sense at a time, like I just did then. You might like to do smell, for example. You might like to smell the leaves or the beautiful flowers. Can you hear any shapes? Are there shapes that sound around you? When you think about birdsong, can you think about their wing shape perhaps? Or their interesting beaks? Or the shapes that they make as they fly through the sky? Even just taking time to just be silent in the forest is really good for you. Try to do 5 minutes walking through the forest to just listen and not talk and see what happens. That really helps you slow down. So just for a moment, imagine all the things that we've talked about today and the stillness of nature, and feel your deeper connection to nature. And this is your space. This is your sanctuary. How do you feel after taking this special time for yourself? I hope you feel good. So I've got a little poem to share, and it's this. It says, consider the intricate web of life, each thread vital, each life intertwined. In every leaf, in every drop of water, nature's wisdom speaks, reminding us of our place in this great dance of survival. So, as we finish off the session, you might take a moment to think about things. You might like to try and write about this afterwards or draw something. You might like to get a piece of paper and draw some of the things you made or some of the memories that you made. And you could make art like this. Where would you display something like this? And how could you carry this awareness in your life? And Karen had a suggestion. Did you want to pop in, Karen? And I remember you said something about a little bit of a take home that people could do.
Yes, absolutely. Mary, if you'll just unshare your
Yeah.
screen. Um, I think when we looked at all of our messages across the week about species survival, slowing down and connecting to nature is such a great idea. We would love to see some photos of maybe some of the art or the mandalas or your experiences connecting to nature. We've got the weekend coming up. See if you can spend some time in your backyard or local park, or local national park if you're near the beach. Feel the sand between your toes, hit those sticks together, listen to the sound. I know Tamara was saying that she could only hear cars. Well, maybe you can go somewhere where you can sit quietly and tune out the cars to hear some of the nature. It can be really tricky in cities to do that. So maybe you can connect by touching and feeling the texture of a bark of a tree. Now, my favorite one is if you haven't found your favorite tree, that is your challenge, to go out this weekend and connect to nature and find your favorite tree. I have 3 favorite trees in different places, from different places where I've lived. And I still go back and visit those trees from time to time because I've got a connection to them. I've touched them, I've felt them, and I've created those connections. So, Mary, I think you're absolutely right. There's so much more that you can do. This is the beginning of your journey to slow down, to use all of your senses and connect and think about what we can do to protect our local environments and the wider environments, both our plants and our animals. I will be sharing some links to Mary's website, but also of how to build an insect hotel, how to build a lizard lounge, how to create microhabitats to encourage more wildlife into your local area. And we just had there, Tamara's favourite is the gum tree. Well, it is a very classic Australian example, and so many different kinds, from flowering gums, scribbly gums, different kinds of bark. So
Oh,
thank you
she's
so much, Mary. If you'd like to add something there as well.
yeah, definitely. There were a lot of parts of that experience that you could just take a little bit of it, whether it's walking quietly, whether it's listening out. You could see how I was touching things, you know. I don't think we give our hands, you can rub things on your cheek and do that. Just as we age, we lose these senses of looking and smelling, and if we can enliven them through nature, and it's so healthy to do, then please do. Or if it is about writing about your experience or drawing about it, it's all different ways of deepening that connection. And what it means then for species survival is that you're understanding, you're committed more to actually um, creating beautiful spaces around you, for fighting for that tree not to be chopped down, or cleaning up for the creek, or going on a walk and picking up 3 bits of rubbish. Honestly, if all of you in this seminar today could do that, because I walk every day and pick up things and they're just going down into the waterways. So it's something we can do to give back. And nature gives to us every day. It keeps us alive. It sustains us on life. And that's the least we can do, is to give back, but at the same time appreciate how it makes us feel good. And being in nature is such a wonderful thing to do.
Thank you, Mary. Tanya's put in the Q&A that she said, thank you very much. Found this very relaxing. But Tamara wants to know, before we finish up, what's your favourite tree?
My favourite tree. I really like gum trees. There's one in Sydney called the Angophora, and it's got this beautiful pink bark, and you can just put your hands on it and touch it, and it feels cool, and it's got a really pinky hue. It's sort of a bit corally, and it's very smooth barked. It's just wonderful to experience an Angophora. Sometimes I like to hug a tree too.
Yes, I also like to hug a tree. Tamara's wondering what my favourite tree is. Well, one of my favourite trees is, surprisingly, it's in Sydney, near Chatswood Police Station. It is
Ah,
a huge tree. I think it is the pink gum, it's a red gum. I think it might be an Angophora as well, with
yeah,
very, very gnarly branches.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's been sort of protected in the middle of this sort of the suburb, and I always see something different when I walk past it. I don't see it all the time, I'm not in that area very often, but when I do, I always make sure I go past it, because I've seen birds nesting in it. I've seen it when it's wet. I've seen it when it's dry. I've seen it with sap on it. And it is, yeah, just a fabulous tree. I don't know how old it is, but I imagine it is quite old. And yeah, very beautiful to look at all of the twisting branches.
Lovely.
And oh, I think that was our last question. So thank you everyone for joining. And someone had also asked, we will be sharing the recording of this and all of the SciFest sessions other than the trivia. They weren't recorded because it's not as fun watching a Kahoot after it's finished. So we will be sharing those 10 sessions that everyone will have access to. And this is a great one to come back to, as Mary said, and just bring out little pieces at different times. And maybe once you have created that greater connection, you can sort of think about the whole thing and make one of those beautiful mandalas. It was lovely to see, Mary. So thank you so much to Mary, and thank you to everyone for joining SciFest 2024. It's our biggest year that we've ever had, and it's been a lot of fun with so many wonderful questions and so many wonderful participants. So thank you all very much for joining us, and I look forward to SciFest 2025. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.